Welcome back to the second video in our series to develop our employee management tool. This video will show how to search for existing employees and populate their information using our employee management form. So let's VBA. Okay, so we are going to start off this one with just this top portion. We want to be able to enter in all or part of an employee name. We want to be able to then search for that employees that meet the criteria. And then we want it to list out the employees. And I've decided that I would like to list out the employee's name and their employee number. So I've got a column count of 2 on this one. All right, so what you can do to start entering your code is I want the button to trigger this so I can right click on it and click View Code. Now you'll see I already have it written out here, but we're going to go through it line by line for the most part so you can understand what I did. So the first thing is you'll notice that it's the CMD lookup button. This is going to happen on click. So when somebody clicks it, it's going to run this code. First thing you have to do is you have to set up a couple of variables. And I put range find. That's how we're going to find the name. And it's going to be in a range. So it's in a column. Then I also have a variable called string first find, and I've named that as a string. And you'll understand why I have that one here in a moment. Now, in all my code, I like to put an error handler. So that's all this is here on error. Go to error handler, and you'll see down at the bottom, I have how I'm going to manage that error. So it's just a general setting that I just tend to put in all of mine. All right, so every time somebody clicks the CMD lookup, we want to make sure to clear the list box first because that's where the information is going to be populated and we don't want it to double populate. So all we do is list lookup dot clear. Then that will clear the list box and now we can start with the populating of it. All right, so this information we're going to look at is going to be over here on sheet 2. And we're looking at column A. Now, column A was the full name. I have it search column A because that way I can type in Doe or I can type in Jane and it's going to return the same result. I can type in HEN and it's going to return this John Henry. So that's why I have it search the full name. So we have sheet 2, which is your employees, and we're looking in the range of A through A. Now, I do with the width, make sure that you automatically put an end width. So that means everything happening in here concerns sheet 2 and this range. So now I've got to find the information. So I have set range find. That was our variable that we dimmed as a range. And I do a dot find, and then I put what I want to look up. I am looking up the text lookup dot text. Remember, this right here is our text lookup. So whatever is in here is what we're wanting to see. So then I say to look in the values, of course, but here's the big thing. I say look at XL part. That's where it's going to look and find whatever I have typed in. It's going to look through every row or every cell in column A, and it's going to see if it can find a match. All right, so then we get down here and we have to say if not range find is nothing. So it sounds kind of backwards, but basically it's saying if range find is there, if whatever my keywords are there, then we're going to do this code. Now also remember, whenever you put an if, directly go down and put an end if. It's really important because I forget those a lot and then you're going to have an error when you run your code. So the key here though is I put string first find equals whatever that first address is because you want to make this code stop searching once it's back to the beginning. And that's what this code is going to do for you. Now we're going to go down into a loop. And so we start off with do. And we're saying if rangefind.row is greater than 1. So that means if the row that it's looking at is more than row 1, then we're going to do this code. Because remember, row 1 has our labels, our column headers. So we don't want it including that. So we're going to do our, if it's greater than 1, we're going to be adding to our list lookup, to our list box. And you just simply put dot add item, and it's whatever that first range find dot value is. That's what's going to be the first thing added. Now, I said I wanted 2 columns. I want to also return the employee number. So I have to add a second one. Now understand that list boxes start with 0. So the first column in a list box is actually column 0. So the second column is column 1. And I want that to equal the employee number. Notice I have, it's the rangefind.offset03. So if I go over here and look, this is my rangefind. So if I go 1, 2, 3, I offset it 3 columns, it's going to give me the employee number. Oops, there we go. And the row, I want it to just be 0 because I want it to stay in the same row. That way it'll return the employee number for the employee name it returns. All right, and then next we're going to now change our range find variable to a find next. So a dot find next, and then we put the name of the variable in. So that's telling it, go look for the next one. And we're going to loop this until while not range find is nothing. So while it's still finding results, and as long as it doesn't equal the first one that we found. So that's why we added that in there. So it's just going to keep running until it goes through all of column A and gets all of the matches back. So let's take a look at this code. What you can do is you can come up here and you can hit the run, and it's going to load this up. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to type Jane. Search employees, and look, we have Jane Doe 1234. I could put a DO. We're still going to have Jane Doe and her employee number. So let's put Hen for Henry. And now we've got John Henry. So it's really a great tool to have, and the more employees you have, the more results you'll have in here. So it's really a very powerful tool that you can use. All right, so let's say then that now we have this result, but what do we do with it? Well, now that's what we're going to take a look at. So once we have this populated, we want to be able to do something with the names that are up here. And the goal is we want all of their information to show up down here because we want to be able to see what their address is or who they report to. Well, there's a special feature in VBA coding, and it's a double click code. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, so with this, you'll see we're choosing the list box, list lookup, and then it's this double click, by val, cancel, and all of this. I always just copy and paste this from one workbook to another so I don't have to try to remember what all it says. But I'll have this file available for you so you can have this code. So with this, what this is going to allow us to do is double click what's in that list box and populate our user form. So I've set up a few variables. First, I have C payroll. That's their employee number. That's going to be our lookup value. Then I have a few standard things that I put in here, like dim I as integer, dim find value. And notice the find value doesn't have anything. I can put it as a range, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to have a find uh, variable as well. Find myself when I'm coding that a lot of times I'm bouncing back and forth. Like I'll think, oh, I need this variable. And so I'll go up here and add it. I try to keep all of my variables dimmed at the top, but you can dim throughout as well. All right, so once again, I have my error handler. but it's going to be the same as the other one, has the same error handler. But now we need to look at our list lookup selection. What are we double clicking? So notice I have for I equals 0. So remember, list boxes start at 0 instead of 1. So for I equals 0 to list lookup dot list count minus 1. So it's going to take how many things in that list and minus 1, because remember, we're starting at 0. And it's going to go from the first value that's in that list box all the way to the last one. Now we ask ourselves if list lookup dot selected I, so that's going to be, in this case, the first one will be 0, then it'll be 1, 2, 3. If it's true, so if I have selected the first one, then that means it's true. Then I'm going to set the payroll variable equal to the employee number. That was the one that's in the second column, but in list boxes, that's considered column 1. Now it's going to keep looping until it gets to the C payroll number. Once it has that number, then it's going to find the value. So I'm setting find value equal to sheet 2, because that's where our employees information is. And remember, our employee numbers are in column D, so that's where it's going to be searching. And what do we want it to find? We want it to find the payroll number in column D. Look at the values. This time, though, we want to put XL whole because we don't want a partial. We want to find the entire one. Now, notice here, I now have dot offset 0, -2. I do that because you'll see the employee number is here. That's going to be our find value. But if I offset it -2 columns, that's going to put it to here, to the first name. So when I do that, find value now equals the first name. And we do that because of this little nifty trick. We have 17 text boxes or combo boxes, entry boxes. And this is what I was saying. If you name them Reg 1 through Reg 17, this is a very quick way to populate this user form. So for x equals 1 to CNUM, which I said CNUM is 17, we'll see that if we do the me means this user form, dot controls, and notice I have the reg and x. So this first one will be reg1 dot value. The next one will be reg2 dot value. We're going to say that equals the find value. So reg1 will return the first name. Then I'm going to go down here and change this to where I now reset the find value to offset 1. So now it's going to go to the next column. So reg 2 will then equal the last name. And it's going to continue doing that until all 17 input boxes have the information from your employee sheet filled in. Now, I did add a little bit more here because when we look at our user form, we have date of birth, new hire date, termination date. These are all dates. We want to make sure to set a format for our dates to where it's consistent throughout. And we want to make sure that when it returns the values, it's returning it in the format that we want. So I have here for Reg 10, Reg 15, and Reg 16, we're going to format, and then you put it in again. We're formatting Reg 10 dot value, and then we're going to format it like this: month, month, day, day, then the year. Now you can make this month, day, then year, 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 or year, year. I mean, it's up to you how you want your date to look at. It's pretty flexible. I just like to have the 2-digit for the month, 2-digit for the day, and then the 4-digit for the year. But I do that for each one to make sure that it's going to populate those fields using this. So let's take a look at it. So I say here, I put Tom. Now I'm going to double click Tom, and you see all of his information populates in here. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice, easy tool to have, and you'll be able to use this a lot in your user forms. So speaking of adding the date formats, you need to go ahead and add that here in the user form as well. You want to make sure when they're entering in this information that the formatting stays consistent. So what I'm going to do is click on the Reg 10, right click and hit View Code. And you'll see that I basically added the same exact code that was up in the double click code to where it will make the format update after the user has entered the information. And that's a key thing. You've got to make sure, typically when you right click on that, that's going to say change, but you need to change that to after update. That way it won't try to reformat it when they're in the middle of typing it in. So make sure that says after update. And I did that for the new hire date and the termination date as well. So you should definitely do that. Now is a good time to go ahead and tie up a few little things with this user form. And the first one's going to be this clear button. This is here in order to clear out this text box, which is text lookup, and this list box, list lookup. So let's right click on this and go to view code. And you'll see I've got text lookup dot value equals and two double quotes. The two double quotes basically means a blank. So you can enter that for your text boxes. And then for the list lookup, it's just dot clear, and that will clear out that list box. Super simple for that one. Now, if we go back here, though, a couple of other things that we might as well take care of. First one is going to be to close. You do need this user to be able to close this user form. So if we right click on that, you'll see it's very simple. It's unload me, and that will close this user form. Super simple. And the last one is this clear button here. So once again, if we right click on it, it's our reset. Now, once again, this is where numbering your reg boxes, your input boxes as reg 1 through 17 makes it super easy to clear it, because we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set CNUM equal to 17. So then for 1 to 17, we have the me.controls and we have the word reg and the X, which in the first case will be 1, then reg 2, reg 3, dot value, and then we use the double quotes, and that will make them blank. And it'll loop through really quick in order to clear out all the input boxes that are on there. So nice and easy on that. And the very last thing I want to mention about all this coding that we've looked at today is notice all the green I have on here. What is in green is not active code. I use it for my notes, and I try to give as specific notes as possible in case I need to go back in later and make a change. It kind of will help me know what I was doing when I originally was building this. Also, if someone else needs to go in and look at your code, they'll be able to tell what it is you're working on. And by putting this little quote mark, and that right there will turn it green. We'll make it to where it's not readable code. And I like to put the little pound signs just as separators, and then a description in between. You figure out what works for you. I think everybody does it a little bit different, but it's just really important to have good notes when you're working through your code. Well, we've covered everything that was planned for this video today, doing the search of employees. I will drop this file with the code down in the bottom of this video, so feel free to download it and play around with the information in it, with the coding. And thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next video where we will be focusing on adding and updating our employees.